At minus 30 degrees Celsius, most people wouldn't survive more than a few minutes outside. But that night, in the middle of a brutal snowstorm, U.S. veteran Logan Hawley heard something unusual, a weak scratch. Almost a plea for help at his cabin door. When he opened it, his breath caught. A German Shepherd, frost clinging to his fur, collapsed onto the doorstep. His badge tag was old and dented. Retired K9, Unit 47. Logan had seen dying soldiers before, but never a dog fighting this hard to stay alive. Before losing strength, the dog lifted his head and looked at Logan. Not with fear, but with intent, as if he had been searching for him, only him. Logan didn't know this dog. He didn't know where he came from. Logan didn't understand it yet. What Logan didn't know was this. The dog didn't come to his home by accident. He came with a purpose, a message, and a secret that would shatter Logan's heart. Stay with us, because what happened next left an American veteran in tears. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The wind howled against the cabin walls like a wounded animal, rattling the windows as if begging to be let in. U.S. veteran Logan Hall sat alone by the dim glow of a lantern, the only source of warmth in a world frozen solid. Outside, the temperature had dropped to a deadly minus 30 degrees Celsius, the kind of cold that stole breath and hope in seconds. Snow piled higher by the hour, swallowing the forest in silence. Logan was used to storms and to loneliness, but something about this night felt different. An uneasiness crawled beneath his skin, the same instinct that had once warned him of danger in combat. He tried to shake it off, sipping his coffee, but then a faint sound broke through the storm. Not wind, not falling branches. Something softer, desperate. Logan froze, head tilted. There it was again, a weak scratch and a low whimper. He slowly rose and approached the door, each step heavy with tension. When he pulled it open, a blast of icy air slapped him in the face, and then he saw it. A German Shepherd, barely standing, frost clinging to every inch of his fur. His legs buckled, and he collapsed onto the wooden doorstep. Logan gasped. A retired police dog. Out here, and why at his door? The story had only just begun. Logan didn't hesitate. He scooped the limp German Shepherd into his arms, shocked by how light the dog felt beneath layers of frozen fur. The moment he stepped inside, he shut the door against the roaring storm and rushed toward the fireplace. Laying the dog gently on a thick wool blanket, the Shepherd shivered violently, his breaths shallow and uneven. Logan grabbed another blanket and wrapped it around him, rubbing his sides to bring warmth back into his trembling body. As he worked, something metallic glinted beneath the ice. Logan brushed away the frost and froze. Hanging from the dog's collar was an old, dented badge tag. The engraving, though scratched, was still clear enough to read, K9 Shadow, retired. Logan's brow tightened. A police dog. What were you doing out there alone? He whispered as if hearing him. Shadow's eyes flickered open. Panic flashed in them for a moment, but the instant he saw Logan, something shifted. The dog held his gaze not with fear, but with recognition. Almost relief. Shadow tried to stand, but a sharp whine escaped him. His back leg buckled, forcing him down again. Logan steadied him. Easy, boy. You're safe. That's when Logan noticed the torn edge of Shadow's service vest, half hidden beneath the blanket. Inside the frayed seam was a small, sealed pocket, as if someone had placed something there. Intentionally, Logan's heartbeat quickened. This dog hadn't been wandering, he'd been sent. Logan's fingers hesitated over the torn pocket in Shadow's vest. Something about it felt intentional, like a message meant for him. With a steady breath, he slid his hand inside and pulled out a small object wrapped in plastic. The wrapping was stiff with cold, edges stiffened by frozen snow. Inside was a photo. Logan unfolded it carefully. A young boy, maybe 8 years old, smiled brightly, arms wrapped tightly around Shadow's neck. The dog looked younger, healthier, whole. But what froze Logan wasn't the picture, it was the dark smear of dried blood across one corner. Behind the photo, tucked neatly, was a small note. The ink had run from moisture, but the message was still readable enough to make Logan's stomach drop. If Shadow finds you, please help him. He saved my life, now his is in danger. Logan stared at the words, his pulse thudding in his ears. Find me? He whispered. Why me? Before he could think further, Shadow pushed his nose against Logan's jacket, whining urgently. He limped toward the door, looked back, and whimpered again, this time louder, more desperate. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. Shadow wanted him to follow. Logan felt the pull in his chest, the same instinct that once led him into battle. The same instinct that had saved his life more than once. Something or someone was out there, and Shadow was begging him to move before it was too late. Shadow limped to the cabin door, pawing at it with what little strength he had left. His breaths came out in sharp, pained whimpers, but his eyes stayed locked on Logan, pleading, urging, insisting. Logan felt that familiar tug in his gut, the instinct that never failed him during deployment. Whatever this dog wanted him to find. It was serious. All right, boy, Logan muttered, grabbing his heavy winter coat and boots. I'm coming. He pushed the door open, and a brutal wave of -30°C air slammed into him. Shadow stepped out first, wobbling but determined, leaving uneven tracks in the snow. Logan followed close behind, watching the dog's every movement. They moved through the storm, wind slicing across their faces. Logan scanned the ground-broken branches, deep drag marks in the snow, signs of a struggle. Shadow sniffed the air, limped forward, then suddenly stopped. Half buried beneath fresh snowfall was a crashed snowmobile, its metal frame twisted and frozen. Logan rushed forward, digging through the snow with his bare hands until he uncovered a man cold, unconscious, but alive. Shadow collapsed beside him, nudging the man's shoulder. Whining softly, Logan's chest tightened. This was no accident. Shadow had led him straight into a life-or-death emergency. Logan dropped to his knees beside the injured man, snow soaking through his gloves. The man's skin was ice-cold, his breaths shallow and irregular. Without hesitation, Logan switched into survival mode, the same instincts that once kept him alive overseas now guiding his hands. Stay with me, he murmured, checking the man's pulse. Weak, but there. Shadow lay beside his owner, shivering violently, his nose nudging the man's cheek as if begging him to wake up. The loyalty in that gesture twisted something deep inside Logan's chest. This dog had dragged himself through a lethal storm on 3 good legs to bring help. Logan pulled out his emergency kit, wrapping the man in thermal blankets and positioning his body to maintain circulation. He built a makeshift wind barrier using fallen branches and his own backpack, shielding them from the savage wind. Shadow wouldn't move. He pressed his body against the man's chest, sharing whatever warmth he had left. Logan placed a hand on Shadow's head. "You did good, boy. Real good." Minutes felt like hours before the faint roar of engines broke through the storm. Rescue teams approached, lights cutting through the darkness. One medic knelt beside the man, eyes widening. He wouldn't have made it another hour. Another looked at Shadow. And this dog. He saved his life. Hours later, Logan paced the hospital hallway, Shadow resting weakly at his feet. When the doctor finally emerged, Logan braced himself for the worst. But the doctor's tired smile said it all. "He's stable. You got him here just in time." Shadow lifted his head, tail moving just slightly, as if he understood. Inside the room, the injured man lay bandaged but conscious. His eyes filled with gratitude the moment he saw Logan, and then softened when Shadow limped to his side. "He followed you?" The man whispered. Logan nodded. "He found my door." The man exhaled shakily. "My son, he loved watching your military videos. You were his hero." He used to tell Shadow, "If anything ever happens, find him." When my boy passed, Shadow never stopped searching. Logan felt his breath catch. The boy from the photo. The note. The storm. It all made sense. Shadow pressed his head into Logan's chest, choosing him with quiet certainty. Logan wrapped an arm around him, eyes stinging. "You've carried enough pain, buddy," he whispered. "Let me take it from here." From that day forward, Logan didn't live alone anymore. Shadow had found him for a reason, and Logan honored it every single day.